Hi class. Today we are in Chapter 1, Lesson 2, the Pueblo People. Before we start reading, let's take a look at this picture here. It's showing us the inside of some of the Pueblo people's homes, the outside, what they're doing, and we're going to take a look at this timeline as well. So let's do that first. So at the beginning of the timeline in 1150, the Hopi built Oriabi, the oldest continuously occupied settlement in the United States. 1276 to 1299. The Great Drought causes cultural shift in ancestral Pueblo peoples. So there's a drought that lasted for 23 years. It's a long time. Late 1300s. The Navajo arrive in the Southwest. So it's important to note that the Navajo nation is different from the Pueblo people. 1540, Spanish explorer Francisco Vázquez de Coronado interrupts a sacred Zuni ceremony and causes a battle. Well, now that's interesting. So that tells me that these religious ceremonies, such as what Francisco interrupted, were very important to those people. It was so important, in fact, it caused a battle. Okay, let's take a look at the text. The Pueblo people. The Pueblo peoples of the American Southwest have inhabited the area for more than 1,000 years. They mostly farmed crops such as corn and beans, and they built permanent homes out of stone and adobe clay. The Spanish word for these homes is pueblo, and that is how these people got their name. Pueblo homes were modeled after the cliff dwellings of the ancestral Pueblo. They are cube-like rooms stacked on top of each other. The largest rooms are at the bottom, while the smaller rooms are near the top. There are also fewer rooms near the top, so the entire house does not look like a big square or rectangle, but more like a small stepped pyramid. Wooden ladders outside of the rooms were usually used to get from one floor to another. Sometimes the bottom floor would have no doors or windows, and a person could only get in by climbing a ladder. This made the structure easy to defend because the ladder could be pulled up. Well, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? How could you get in if there's no door or window? Ladder's the only way up. You pull up the ladder, that's a pretty safe place. Okay, let's take a look at this last paragraph on this page. Pueblo buildings were usually home to several families and had connecting shared rooms. They also contained kivas, special below-ground rooms used for rituals and ceremonies. Okay, so now this picture here makes a little bit more sense, doesn't it? So we can see the bottom floors, they're much bigger, and as the building gets taller, it's smaller, and there's fewer and fewer rooms. And here are those ladders that the text was talking about to get up to those initial floors. And there's no doors either. Well, I mean, that's just a cutaway showing the inside. The actual building itself would have had walls there. But you get the idea. Let's take a look at the next page. There are many groups that make up the Pueblo people. Two of these are the Zuni and the Hopi. The Zuni occupy their ancestral land in the Zuni River Valley, though their territory is not as large as it was in the past. Attacks by Spanish treasure hunters and later settlers from the United States caused the Zuni to abandon some of their villages. They gathered into a single village to better protect themselves. The village was called a Halona. It is now called Zuni. Another Pueblo group is the Hopi. The Hopi people are believed to be one of the oldest desert peoples. Their village of Oriabi is believed to be nearly 900 years old. They use dams and irrigation to grow crops such as corn, cotton, beans, and squash. They also took advantage of the sand dunes that formed against the sides of mesas. These dunes would trap moisture, and so the Hopi would plant crops in them. Hopi men and women had different jobs. The men farmed and hunted. They also wove cloth from cotton. The women gathered food like nuts and berries. They also made baskets and pottery to store their food. The Hopi were among the first people to fire or strengthen by heating their pottery using coal. So what they would do is after they would make their pottery, their clay pot or whatever they were making out of their clay, they would put it into a fire and that would harden it. It's like a kiln. Today, artists do that when they make artwork out of clay, and we actually do that to dinnerware like plates and bowls and cups. Let's take a look at the next page. Important parts of the Hopi culture include kachinas. According to Hopi beliefs, kachinas are spirits who live in sacred places for half of the year. During the other half, they live near the Hopi villages and bring with them rain and the growing season. The kachinas are represented by masked dancers who perform in the villages when the kachinas visit. There are hundreds of kachinas, so the dancers often give small carved kachina dolls to children to help them learn about the spirits. Let's take a look over at this photograph here. So here we see the caption reads Kachina dolls. So these are the dolls that they would give the children to help teach them about the kachinas. Let's take a look at the other picture over here. It's a map showing where they were at. Now again, this is like the other map that we looked at earlier, where we have the United States here, and then this area here in this square, that's what's in this square here. And it says American Indians of the Southwest 1500s. So in the 1500s, this is about where these Indians were at. So in the orange here are the Pueblo lands. So that's going to be right here. Non-Pueblo lands would be all of this in the yellow. And then that solid line here in the legend tells us its present day boundaries. So of course, these states and international boundaries here didn't exist then, but they do now. And the dot represents a town. So there's the town of Hopi. All right, the map skills at the bottom says which rivers are on or near Pueblo lands. Well, here's the Colorado River right here, the Gia River, the Rio Grande, and the Pecos River. All right, class, go ahead and reread any sections that you need to or rewatch the video, and we'll see you soon.